and Propaganda, a 6-part series with George Stroumboulopoulos. 70 years later, why World War II still matters.
In World War II, millions were sent to fight. Would you have joined up if your country called on you? Well, if your initial answer is no, let me ask you this. What would it take to persuade you? Here's a strange fact. When Adolf Hitler started his campaign of conquest, most Germans didn't want to go to war. But something changed, and that something has a lot to do with propaganda. It rained down on them every day, pressuring them, prodding them. It didn't just happen in Germany. All over the world, propaganda was changing minds. This episode is all about how people were sold on war in a time of love, hate, and propaganda.
April 1939. Springtime in Nazi Germany, and Berlin was ready to party. The Führer was turning 50. Nervous Nazis worried if their presence would please the dictator. Hitler's favorite, a model of the triumphal arch for Germania, a new capital city for his Nazi empire.
Dem Schöpfer Großdeutschlands gelten Dank und Glückwunsch der ganzen Nation.
But this birthday was different.
It's a moment of celebration, self-congratulation, if you like, but also an awareness that time is indeed ticking and ticking away.
Time was ticking away. So was Hitler's quest for a world empire. Hitler was planning war. His target was Poland. Germany had lost land to its neighbor after World War I. Hitler wanted it back. Germany's old enemies, France and England, had threatened war if he invaded Poland. That was going to mean blood. Lots of it.
But the German people aren't so keen to fight, not after getting trounced in World War I. So here's the problem. How does Hitler convince his people to go back to war?
In the summer of 1939, war was not on the minds of most Germans. Hitler had brought peace and prosperity to Germany, and people loved him for it. One of them was Melita Maschmann.
Hitler was a great man, a genius who had saved our nation.
She was in the League of German Maidens, the Hitler Youth for Girls. They embraced outdoor sports, fresh, clean German air, and Hitler. The reason she joined was one every teen would understand.
It was an escape from my narrow, childish life, a chance to break free from my conservative family traditions.
That year, 60,000 German maidens came to Berlin for a new family tradition. They told their Führer, "We belong to you."
They were recruits for the future, soldiers of the future, mothers of the future. So they had to be prepared to take on any task.
But even these loyal supporters did not want war.
There were rumors of war, but we weren't worried. We were convinced that Hitler was a man of peace.
So, how does a man of peace launch a war? Well, here's how Hitler described his strategy. Events should be presented in a way so that unconsciously the masses will automatically conclude if there's no way to settle this matter peacefully, then it will have to be done by force. While Hitler plotted war, his master propagandist Dr. Joseph Goebbels started selling it in the Nazi-controlled press. The message was simple: blame Poland.
All wars, in many ways, have to be justified not as an aggressive war, but as a defensive war. And that's exactly the way in which Nazi propagandists tackled the events of September 1939.
Daily directives from the propaganda ministry ordered newspapers what, when, and where to publish information. The one from August 10th, 1939 commanded, the front page must contain news of offenses against ethnic Germans in Poland.
Germans treated like criminals in chains. Terror against ethnic Germans grows by the hour. State Secretary's plane fired on by Poles.
In Berlin, CBS radio reporter William Shirer was dumbfounded.
The rest of the world thinks Germany is threatening to attack Poland. Here, the very reverse is being maintained. You ask, but the German people can't possibly believe these lies. Then you talk to them. So many do.
The August 26 propaganda ministry directive ordered, the atrocity reports cannot be relaxed in any way. The war of nerves must continue.
Undiminished terror against ethnic Germans. All of Poland in war fever.
This is what Nazi propaganda is saying. These people are being attacked, lynched, even killed. There is the illusion that Germany is determined to go to a war against the aggressor, Poland, in order not to grab land, but to save the minority.
At the radio building, Shirer had a ringside seat to the manipulation.
Tomorrow's papers will say, the Fuhrer is demanding patience because he wants to exhaust even the last possibilities for a peaceful solution.
The truth was quite different. At a secret meeting, Hitler told his officials the conflict he was about to start would be a new kind of war. He told them, I have placed my death head formations in readiness with orders to mercilessly kill Polish men, women, and children. Our aim is the physical destruction of the enemy. On the night of August 31st, Germany claimed Polish patriots had attacked a German radio transmitter. In fact, the attack had been staged by the Nazis. It was the last step in the propaganda campaign. Hitler declared, I have no other choice than to meet force with force. The invasion of Poland had started.
When the Gleiwitz radio station is attacked, the German columns have already started to push into Poland, so it's not a counterattack. It's a blatant, it's a blatant lie.
Nobody was cheering on the streets. Britain and France declared war on Germany. The world was back at war. The lies had only just begun. The Germans saw the illusion of conquest. The Poles saw the reality of it. Nazis consider the Poles Untermenschen, subhumans. They and their country had no right to exist. Within days, German troops were killing Polish civilians and POWs, crimes against all the normal codes of war.
I'd say the greatest propaganda success is that the German army fought an honorable campaign in Poland. And until this very day, there's still people out there who believe that the German army simply fought a military campaign, and sure, some civilians got killed because that's collateral damage in war, but not that the civilian population was ever targeted.
10,000 young women also went east to help create living space for Germans. Melita Mushman was among them.
I was filled with a cold, almost intoxicating feeling of superiority. Our relationship was unproblematic. I gave orders and these people carried them out.
Poles and Jews were driven out of their homes. Ethnic Germans took their place. Hitler's girls were turning Nazi ideology into reality.
Whether or not they were fanatic believers, they did what was required of them. They helped to make the system work. And to me, the Nazi regime didn't depend on true believers. It depended on a large number of willing conformists.
The Nazis were turning Poland into Germany. Polish organizations, newspapers, books were banned. Schools and theaters closed. The parks, streetcars, even sidewalks were for Germans only. Poland had ceased to exist.
So what was going on back on the home front in Germany? Well, they were breathing a big sigh of relief, and they were going to the movies.
The biggest draw? A documentary called Baptism of Fire. An over-the-top ode to the German Air Force.
Weit hinein in Polens Herz stößt des deutschen Schwertes Spitze vor.
The film vividly showed the annihilation of the defenseless city of Warsaw through carpet bombing.
It is deliberately designed to strike the tone of terror and fear. In fact, it was used as an instrument by which to intimidate foreign powers. So this is a film that can be said was used as a real weapon of war.
On the ground, in besieged and battered Warsaw, the war looked very different.
Warsaw's mayor has given me permission to take pictures. He wants the world to know what has happened here.
A young American photographer, Julian Bryan, captured the horror of war in the faces of the city's residents.
A 10-year-old girl came running up and stood transfixed by one of the dead. It was her older sister. She couldn't understand why her sister would not speak to her.
This picture would become one of the most widely used photographs by British and American propagandists. Warsaw had the first taste of the apocalypse Hitler's war would unleash. Resident Chaim Kaplan wrote,
"We are witnessing the dawn of a new era in the history of the world. This war will indeed bring destruction upon human civilization."
A month later, Warsaw surrendered. Kaplan watched the victory parade in fear.
Wherever Hitler's foot treads, there is no hope for the Jews. Their danger is so many times greater.
June 1940. The world gasped. The German army was marching down the Champs-Élysées in the French capital, Paris. It was inconceivable. It was humiliating. It was true. During 1940, Hitler's armies had spread north and west, taking country after country. In a stunning military victory, Germany defeated French and Allied forces and rolled through France. Teacher Jean Gouhenot watched the German advance.
I am full of grief, anger, and shame. I did not know I loved my country so much. These gray men in the streets. It's the invasion of the rats.
German newsreel cameras captured the empty streets of Paris as Hitler took in the famous sights. It was one hell of a photo op. His visit would last just 3 hours, but the Nazis were here to stay. And although they covered Paris in swastikas, they let the defeated French have a government and a leader of their own. Marshal Philippe Pétain. A seemingly docile French military hero from the First World War.
He gives the French something back of self-esteem and some sort of honor, because this is a heroic figure. But what is interesting is it's like almost resurrecting somebody from the dead.
So, how do you turn a tired old guy into an inspiring new leader? Pétain rallied his countrymen with reassurances that everything would be fine and launched a major offensive, aimed not at the Germans, but the French. Not with guns, but posters.
Le facteur va de maison en maison offrir les portraits du grand chef, dont l'image, de même qu'elle se trouve dans les cœurs, doit avoir sa place dans chaque foyer de France.
Within a year, the 84-year-old had become France's favorite pinup. But it turned out the nice old man was a tough guy. Pétain was a right-winger who wanted to get rid of France's modern ways.
It's basically going back to the roots of France. No foreign elements, no Jews, no communism, no socialism.
Pétain wanted to sweep them all away, along with the people he believed were responsible for France's defeat. The school teachers.
The school teachers? Now, some people have issues with their teachers, but blame them for losing the war to the Nazis? Well, Pétain and his supporters believed the teachers were just a bunch of godless lefty pacifists who had turned the kids into softies. The struggle for the hearts and minds of French school kids is on.
Mais le maréchal a pensé de son côté au jour de l'an de ses petits visiteurs.
Soon, Pétain was a part of every child's life. He wooed them in person. He was on the alphabets and in the storybooks as the fairy tale prince who would come to rescue them, the saintly savior of their country.
Once you accept that as a child, you become basically a follower. I mean, children are the easiest and the best target in terms of propaganda.
In the schools, a lot of old faces were gone. Teachers suspected of defeatism or communism had been moved, suspended, even fired. And there was one very big new face. Pétain. Teacher Jean Gouhenot was horrified.
This awful print hung on the wall. That man presided over our work like God the Father. There was no escape.
Order, discipline, and authority were back. There were new books, new courses, and new inspectors to keep an eye on the teachers.
He makes note of all the words he deems suspicious, so he can report all my blasphemies against Pétain's new order. The history of ideas is now suspect. Sign of the times.
At the end of 1940, Pétain went to see the guy who really called the shots in Europe. his government would now collaborate with Nazi Germany. Cozying up to Hitler, another sign of the times. Even Jean Guéhenno's students had learned whose side they should be on.
I am the debris of an ancient and suspect world. For the first time, I feel young people flee my gaze. They are afraid of compromising themselves. It's pure survival instinct. They adapt.
With Europe under the Nazi thumb, German propagandists turned their sights on Britain. It got nasty, personal, and sometimes it got funny.
Or as funny as the Nazis can get.
Sokrates, schon sehr betagt, hat sehr richtig eins gesagt.
In this film, the Hitler Youth played dress-up to mock the spoiled English upper classes. But in the humor war, the Allies had a secret weapon. Charlie Chaplin was a natural to play Hitler. After all, they shared a mustache. And a flair for the dramatic. A week after the invasion of Poland, Chaplin started filming his first talkie. Chaplin was still working on the film by the time Hitler had conquered most of Europe.
Halfway through, I began receiving alarming messages from United Artists. But I was determined to go ahead, for Hitler must be laughed at.
Chaplin played Adenoid Hinkle, the great dictator. British propagandists had a field day. A popular song asked,
"Who is this man who looks like Charlie Chaplin? What makes him think that he can win a war?"
Laughter can be a good way to show not just the foibles, but what is truly demonic and evil in a dictator. You're laughing at the pomposity of the character. At the same time, Chaplin is also making a point of what is real and dangerous and deadly and lethal in this guy.
In 1939, the Nazis had successfully sold Hitler's war to the Germans. Now his propaganda machine had to sell not just war, but murder.
A film called Victims of the Past was one of Hitler's favorite movies. In fact, it was made on his orders and shown in all of Germany's 5,300 cinemas. But really, it was a film only a Nazi could love.
Alles Lebensschwache geht in der Natur unfehlbar zugrunde.
Filmed in Germany's hospitals and asylums, the cripples and idiots, as they were labeled, were useless eaters. Life unworthy of life.
Wir haben unwertes Leben nicht nur erhalten, wir haben ihm auch Vermehrung gewährt.
It was part of a campaign for their extermination. They didn't fit in with the Nazi pursuit of the master race. In the fall of 1939, Hitler wrote a note on his personal letterhead authorizing euthanasia for persons who are considered incurably sick. Despite his signature, the killings were illegal. They would be Hitler's secret. He wasn't sure Germans would approve. The propaganda attack on the mentally ill and physically disabled was relentless. It claimed hardworking Germans were footing the bill for what they called inferior human material.
Wie viele gesunde Menschen hätten dafür siedeln können?
In case anyone missed where all this was going, the film Das Erbe made it clear.
Der schwächliche Hase wird vom Verfolger erwischt.
This is perhaps the most taboo of issues at the time in Germany. This is an operation that from the very first moment is conceived as a secret conspiratorial operation.
Elvira Hempel was in an asylum, mistakenly labeled as feeble-minded.
The death man comes almost every day. The child with one eye gets an injection. He dies. The death man comes again. Another child gets an injection. He dies too. The death man is always busy.
The death men were doctors. Many supported the Nazis and the euthanasia program.
The most Nazified professions in the Third Reich, they were the doctors, more than any other professions. Instead of treating the patient, they killed them.
There were so many, the Nazis came up with a faster way to kill. Patients were transferred to asylums that were special killing centers.
One day, I didn't hear the babies crying anymore. All the beds were empty. I ran down the hallway to where the older children were. All of those beds were empty too.
To conceal what was happening, certificates with false causes of death were sent to next of kin. But there was no hiding the thick black smoke spewing from the crematoria chimneys. At the asylum, the gray bus was back, this time for Elvira.
I sat by the window and scratched a small hole in the paint. I looked out and saw houses and trees. No more than that.
The children were taken downstairs and told to take off their clothes. They were going to have a shower.
The woman shoved the children into a room with a big, heavy door. I hid behind the doctor. He grabbed me and asked, "What is your name? How old are you?" I told him. Get dressed again. I was saved.
Inside the room with the heavy door, the others lay dying. The shower room was a gas chamber. The institution that would come to symbolize Nazi Germany had been created. Rumors of the killings reached the popular and outspoken Catholic bishop, Clement August Graf von Galen. He decided to take Hitler on, no matter what the cost. He revealed the existence of the euthanasia program.
If you can kill unproductive human beings, then woe betide us when we get old. Woe betide the invalids. Woe betide the loyal soldiers who return disabled. Woe to Germany if God's commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," is not only broken, but tolerated and is permitted to go unpunished.
That night, he waited for the Gestapo to come arrest him. They never showed up, but others did. People who wanted copies of his sermon. Soon, it was all over Germany and the world.
As you can imagine, the Nazis were not impressed. Most of them wanted von Galen arrested, some wanted him hanged. And standing up to Hitler? That was unbelievable. But what happened next is even more unbelievable.
Instead of arresting von Galen, Hitler ordered the gassing program stopped.
What they were coming up against was a pre-existing belief system. And the Nazis could not come in and challenge those belief systems and overturn them completely within such a short period of time, perhaps even within a longer period of time. So in that sense, propaganda had limitations, of course.
Although the gassing had stopped, the killing continued by lethal injection and by starvation. By 1945, almost 200,000 men, women, and children had been put to death. In the fall of 1941, killing center personnel moved to Poland to set up and run the death camps for Jews. This time, the propaganda campaign that led to murder would be more successful. Warsaw, 1939. Someone has a new camera, and people are horsing around, having fun. Nothing special, except for one thing. These are perhaps the last happy images of the Jews of Warsaw. In October 1939, the Nazis seized control of Poland, and them.
Nazi camera crews started filming within days. Most of the pictures we have of Jews in Poland during this period were taken by Nazi soldiers and propagandists. So, how much did they distort reality? And how much can we really trust those images?
Hitler and Goebbels wanted to show that the Jews were subhuman, that they were the carriers of vermin, that they were inferior. They were the absolute antithesis of everything that the good German should be.
So instead of this, Germans saw this. Fear of epidemics became the excuse to round up Poland's Jews. In Warsaw, 400,000 were forced into less than 3% of the city's area. A 3-meter-high wall was built. The ghetto was sealed. Nazi propagandists used the Warsaw Ghetto like a Hollywood backlot to create any reality they wanted. This unedited footage is for a film that's supposed to show there's lots of food in the ghetto, but only for some. A shop window is filled with meat. Hungry children are reluctant extras. The message is, Jews let their own people starve. It's a cruel deception. In fact, Warsaw's Jews were being systematically starved by the Nazis. The official rations were only a few hundred calories a day. Adam Chernyakov was head of the Jewish Council.
The children are living skeletons. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I wept as I have not wept for a long time.
As more people were squeezed into the ghetto, starvation, poverty, and desperation spread. Nazi propagandists claimed this footage showed Jews in their natural state.
Of course, from a propaganda point of view, the Nazis could use those kinds of images and show quite how despicable these Polish Jews were and how they lived in these squalid conditions, but squalid conditions which they had created for them.
The Nazi propaganda posters had become reality. In the terrible conditions created by the Nazis, disease raged. 1,000 people a week were dying.
May 5th. The movie men are here. I asked them why our schools were not being filmed. Positive achievements are of no interest to them. May 6th. Some German filmmakers came to see the corpses in the quarantine.
Residents of the Warsaw Ghetto would appear in The Eternal Jew, one of the most vile films ever made.
Sie sind hinterlistig, feige und grausam und treten meist in großen Scharen auf. Nicht anders als die Juden unter den Menschen.
Not only could they compare them with vermin, but they could also then talk about the extermination of rats on the one hand and extermination of Jews on the other hand.
In the spring of 1942, there was an influx of Nazi film crews into the ghetto. It was their final fling. On July 22nd, Adam Chernyakov was handed an order by the Nazis. Mass deportations would begin that day.
There must be 9,000 by 4 o'clock. They are demanding I kill the children of my people.
He wrote one last note and swallowed cyanide. Over 100,000 of Warsaw's Jews had already died. 300,000 more would die in the death camps. This time, there would be no outcry in Germany.
It was just sufficient to get individuals just to turn the other way, to look away. And there's a very famous but apt phrase that describes this. The path to Auschwitz was built by hatred, but it was paved with indifference. And that really is at the heart of what the Germans needed for the campaign.
In the East, there was another rising power: Japan. It also believed in racial superiority and world conquest. In 1937, Japan had invaded its neighbor China and committed brutal atrocities against a people they considered inferior. Japan believed they should rule all of Asia. To further their political aims, they turned to a surprising propaganda tool.
We all know people are influenced by political ideals, but there's something even bigger: pop culture, movies, songs, books. And in Japan, even back then, nothing is bigger than manga.
The comics were fun. The message, which mirrored official propaganda, was not. Most popular was dog soldier Nora Kuro. His wild dog brigade was at war against the inept and cowardly pig army led by General Porkchop. Everyone knew they were the Chinese.
The Chinese army is pigs. It's already defined Japan's role in the invasion of Asia. You know, it's a battle between people that are like you and people that are not like you.
The cartoons were Toshie Sakaue's window on the world. She lived in the small village of Kosugi. At school, the most important lessons were about Japan's emperor.
The emperor was divine, but he was kind and benevolent, almost like a second father. I learned to be a good Japanese, loyal, patriotic, and obedient.
Patriotism, religion, and the emperor were bound together by an ancient and powerful myth. The emperor was a living god, the Japanese a pure divine race. Their mission to bring other countries under their rule was a holy war.
This was a narrative of racial superiority. It was a narrative of national greatness. It was, from beginning to end, a story of certain victory.
Japan was mobilizing its people for a war that would drive Western interests out of Asia. A war that demanded the total commitment of every Japanese.
That Japanese society is being transformed so that if you don't have more love for the emperor and the nation than you do for your own family, then how good a Japanese are you really?
In the village, Toshie's oldest brother, Rikichi, was called up to fight.
We all carried tiny flags and waved Rikichi on. The whole school came out and shouted cheers at the station.
Throughout the war, the family structure is pretty much dismantled. The government began producing dozens and dozens of these patriotic programs, and they were all about serving the nation. Serve the nation by eating less. Serve the nation by exercising more. Serve the nation by keeping an eye out for the people who don't serve the nation.
Everyone was forced to join neighborhood associations. They made sure every citizen was prepared to fight.
They would have these like bamboo sticks and train to kill the enemy. It was a psychological tool to have the citizens of Japan think that it is possible to win this war.
In November 1940, the entire nation came together to celebrate the 2600th anniversary of Japan's divine creation and honor their God Emperor.
We had no doubt we would win. We believed we had the support of heaven.
Everyone feels their heart beating to the same rhythm. It's the rhythm of ultranationalism. It is the rhythm of extreme self-sacrifice. It is the beat of a new Japan.
The beat was the march to war. Japan would unleash a new war of conquest that would span Asia and the Pacific and lead to a fateful confrontation with the world's biggest power, the United States. Toshie's two brothers would die in what would be the bloodiest war of all time.